classic, iconic feature film, Do the Right Thing, by the great filmmaker artist Spike Lee. Written, directed, and produced by Spike Lee, cinematography by the great Ernest R. Dickerson, and film score by Spike Lee's late father, Bill Lee. I'm going to read the synopsis for those who've never seen it, because there's some people who've never seen it for some reason. Here we go. I'm reading according to IMDb, okay? It says, on the hottest day of the year on a street in Bedford-Stuyvesant section of Brooklyn, everyone's hate and bigotry smolders and builds until it explodes into violence. Let me list off the principal cast. Danny Aiello, the late Danny Aiello as Sal, the late Ozzie Davis as DeMaya, the late Ruby Dee as Mother Sister, Richard Edson as Vito, the great Giancarlo Esposito as Bugging Out, the great Spike Lee as Mookie, the late Bill Nunn as Radio Raheem, and the very talented John Turturro, and the late Robin Harris and Frankie Faison and Paul Benjamin. Joie Lee is in it, and a lot of other talented, and Samuel L. Jackson, gifted Samuel L. Jackson, and the very talented Rosie Perez, and Roger Guinevere, Steve White, and the great Martin Lawrence. It's cast by Robbie Reed, and it's just a beautiful looking film. It was released on Malcolm X's birthday anniversary, May 19th, 1989. And okay, PK, introduce yourself, and then we're gonna get started, man.
Hello, I'm PK from Chicago. How you doing?
Okay, cool. So PK, what do you want to talk about? You want to talk about like the story, the cinematography, the film score, the characters, the scenery?
All of the above.
Okay, so what do you want? You start first.
Let's start with
the film impacted you.
Oh, okay. At the time, I can speak from at the time, it was very impactful because it was a lot of things going on in Chicago. You had the war on drugs, you had a lot of things that was relevant to the Black community. And the music of the time was inspirational. So it was like one of those quintessential movies that embraced the Black community, and it struck a chord with a lot of us.
Yes, I totally agree. When I saw this movie in 1989, I remember going to the cinema to see it, and I was blown away. I mean, from the very intro scene, what I took notes this time, I rewatched it for this film reaction, and I noticed and I appreciate that Spike Lee opened the movie with a saxophone instrumental of Lift Every Voice and Sing, the Black National Anthem. I believe it may have been Branford Marsalis. Does he play the trumpet? Does he play the saxophone?
Wynton Marsalis plays the trumpet.
Okay. Thank you. So it was opened up with that, and then it cut right to, or dissolved to, and it was in blue, and then it dissolved to this very red background with the great Rosie Perez dancing in such a belligerent, aggressive manner to the wonderful song "Fight the Power" by Public Enemy, and I was just engrossed because I love dance first before anything else, and to see this woman just killing it and dancing in such a an aggressive way to reflect "Fight the Power," because even her wardrobe reflected a boxer. She had on boxing gloves, she had on the boxers, and how did it, I was just so taken in, like, oh my God, and it just popped me up. The music and her dancing, and she was in front of the brownstones in Brooklyn. How did that opening sequence impact you, PK?
It gave me like anticipation. I was like, I'm wondering where he was gonna go with this movie. you know, like you read the synopsis, when you see the previews and everything, you know, you had certain level of anticipation. But when, like you said, that opening scene was powerful, and she was dancing with so much dynamic force, and it was like deliberate, it was intentional, it was powerful.
Mhm.
And it just like gave you some kind of anticipation, like something is about to happen, something about to be good. So I was excited.
Yeah, it was, you know what's so interesting? It was a wonderful foreshadow of what was to come, right? That there was going
Mm,
to literally be a fight happening among the principal people.
right.
Because you just think sometimes you see things like that and it's just symbolism, you know. But it was
Mhm,
like, nah, this is going to really have to jump off towards the end of this movie.
right.
And I love that I watched some interviews, some archival interviews with Spike Lee and Ernest Dickerson and Wynn Thomas, the production designer. And Ernest Dickerson, the cinematographer, director photographer, was saying how he studied, researched the psychology of color and how red is a color of passion and how blues and greens tend to relax people. In submarines, they have the decor is blue and green to keep the military people relaxed, whereas red keeps you amped and hyped, and it's a passionate color. So that was really beautiful. And so I love how they open up after Rosie Perez does this beautiful, powerful dance and choreography. Then it goes to the mayor,
There.
the late great Ossie Davis, playwright,
Mm,
actor, director, and it was in that color palette was like reds and browns and oh, I'm sorry, I skipped Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel L. Jackson is the first person to speak in the movie.
right.
He's a local radio DJ.
Mhm.
Um,
It's
um,
hot. It's hot.
right. um, Senior Love Daddy was his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so he could basically see what's happening in the community because he had a see through and he had a window and he could see people and he would shout out people. Um,
And he shouted out the mayor.
he did. He shouted out the mayor who was the elder in the community. Um, I love how when we so he sets the stage and we get introduced to the mayor and he's asleep and he's on the sheets and it just looks hot. Like we know they are established that it's hot, but it just looks hot. You know how you
Right.
still, even though you're hot, you're under the sheets. I don't know what that is about. I don't know the psychology. We even though we're like mad hot, we still feel the need to get under sheets.
Yeah.
He was under the sheets and it was nice browns and reds. And the first thing, what was the first thing he said?
Oh, I forgot.
He said, "Damn, it's hot." Like, I was like, and so that was cool to get to know who he was. And I don't know if you noticed it, but there was alcohol bottle, empty alcohol bottle by his
All right.
by his bed.
Mhm.
And who are we introduced to next? Oh, Spike Lee and his sister. Spike Lee's counting money. So, what did you feel about the mayor character, the elder?
Um, I thought that was it was a one of those binding characters, especially you know with shows like the relationship between him and then mother sister, I
Yeah.
believe that's it. And so he was like a part of the community, even though he was you know down and out pretty much, but he was
Yeah.
still commanded respect. And you could say at some time, at some point in his life, he might have been a man of respect in doing things. And so I thought it was a good character.
Yeah, he was memorable, and I think every community has that character. They have a neighbor who's drunk a lot of times, but he lives in the community. I feel like the mayor was on Social Security, retired,
Mhm.
but I think he was a part of the Negro League baseball players because when he was talking to the mother system, she's like, get in front of him. He's like, how you doing? He gave her some flowers, some
Flowers.
roses. And he's like, I remember pitching in 1940 something and I struck out or whatever he was baseball lingo. I think it was a part of Negro Baseball League.
Okay.
I think that may have been part of his journey.
Yeah,
Um,
okay. His story.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then so we introduced to Spike Lee and his sister. Spike Lee is living with his sister. He's counting money. She's asleep. And she's like, get a job. And we discovered that he works at the pizzeria. He goes to the pizzeria, and then we're introduced to Danny Aiello and his two sons, Jonathan.
Uh,
It's like Danny Aiello takes a lot of pride in owning a pizzeria. He appears to like the neighbors. There hasn't been any conflict with the neighbors outside of Bugging Out, played by the great Giancarlo Esposito. And the conflict is when Bugging Out is grab some pizza and he looks up and he sees there's no brothers on the wall. And
right.
he
There's a lot of Italian Americans.
a lot of Italian Americans on the wall, mostly celebrities. And I guess this one particular hot Saturday, that's bothering him because I'm sure they've been on the wall since Sal has been there.
Exactly.
But this one hot Saturday, he's like, and he didn't ask for, why don't you put Michael Jackson and Prince, Stevie Wonder? No, he asked for Malcolm X, Mandela, then he said Michael Jordan.
Right.
So I don't know if he's coming, maybe he just recently started reading about Malcolm X and Mandela, or because it must something new happened. Like all of a sudden he wanted this particular day.
Yeah. So I guess it's iconic people in the Black community, since Sal is predominantly, his customer base is predominantly Black, and these are people that he looks up to. Sal looks up to in the Italian community on his wall.
Yeah.
So I would think, by and large, Bugging Out, when he started looking around, he's like, you need to put some of our iconic people on the wall, people that we look up to, people that inspire us.
Yeah.
You know, because we spend a lot of money in your store, you know, buying pizza over the years. So we need some representation. So I think he was coming from that standpoint, definitely.
I understand. I'm just I guess I'm just curious about the backstory as to, like, he's been eating all this time, but this one day I guess he's like, I'm gonna speak on it. I've been maybe thinking this way all this time, or yeah.
Right.
So do you think he's so Black? So basically, Sal's customers are Black and Puerto Ricans.
Right.
He has no Black people, no Puerto Ricans on the wall. So what is your thought about that? Do you feel like Sal saying no, you can put your brothers and your cousins, your uncles, which was a hilarious response, and it's like, no, brothers, not in like biological brothers, Sal, as in like Black people. So that was a funny response. That's cultural. What do you think about that? You think that you feel like his request was legitimate, or his demand was legitimate, and do you feel like Sal's response was reasonable?
Okay. Well, in watching the film, I thought that sometimes you really don't take in your scenery sometimes. And maybe it did dawn on him periodically in the past about that. And then just in that instance, he brought it up. But I think Sal was out of line, because even though he is a part of the community, he's serving the community, you still have to respect your customer base.
Yeah.
And the way he responded to his request, he showed very little respect. It was dismissive. Yeah. about the wants of the customers. He could reject it in a way that would have been a little bit more palatable to him, but he made it in more confrontational tone. So that's what set him off, because, like I said, if you're in the community, if you're a caring business, you want to try to reflect the community in many ways. Number one, none of the employees outside of Mookie were of the community. He was the only one. And he really was like on walking on shaky ground as far as with his employment status. He was day to day, but you know, the employees were all his family members. He had Italian figures all over the wall. So it's a genuine concern, because even as a consumer, I do those things too. I was like, you want to see something from the community reflected in the business, and the way he responded to him, yeah, it made for good comedy segment in the movie, but it did struck at the core of disrespect. And that's an underlying theme in our community with respect to other communities, that Black people as a whole, or I don't like including saying Black and brown. I just deal with where I come from. But Black people as a whole, we get the most disrespect, because we get disrespected by other communities too when we are like the minority population. So it was a certain level of disrespect, and the bugging out character, he was, I think he symbolized a lot of angst in the urban youth, that's trying to, look at themselves and see where they fit in the world, and they see things changing and not perhaps changing for the best, like, because his interaction with the white man that moved on his block, and how he was sensitive to that, so his sensitivity was heightened with respect to his place and his position in his own community.
Yes, I agree. I appreciate that Bugging Out wanted political leaders on the wall, because he could have went and artistry is important. It is a part of society. It helps us see one and connect with one another and see ourselves. So the storytelling is important, songwriting, act, all that stuff. But I like that. It also showed that he was a conscious brother, that he had, for him to say, because if we think about it, on Sal's wall were not political Italian Americans. They were entertainers, singers, actors. Yeah.
Sinatra and people like
right.
that.
Right. And because I feel like sometimes it's easier to see Bugging Out as a clown, as just some loudmouth, but I think he has more depth, because, like I said, the people he wanted to see on the wall was important, and he did raise the point. He actually made both of their approaches were a little aggressive, right? Because first it was with the pizza, put some more cheese on there, and so that was funny. But yeah, I appreciated that he wanted them on the wall, and even with the white dude who bumped into him, which I've experienced of, like, certain times, some white folks, let's say if I'm on a subway train, they will step on my foot or bump my foot and don't say excuse me. I have to say, excuse you, you stepped on my foot. How do you not, PK, if I step on your foot, I'm going to feel that I stepped on another human being's foot.
Exactly.
So that, to me, that was very real from my experience. Bumping into somebody, don't say pardon me, excuse me. You know you bumped into somebody, say excuse me. And Bugging Out's reaction, of course, was hilarious. I think it's funny because it's so real. It's so real. That's what makes it funny. He ran to him and they had that exchange and he stepped on his shoe. He did apologize, but it's like, dude, you knew you bumped into him. And that's, again, feel like you're being dismissed, disrespected, disregarded. It's like, no, you're not going to get away with that. And I'm glad that he challenged him. And the whole exchange about, he said F gentrification and why you move on this block? It's a free country. And he said I should kick your ass for you saying that dumb shit. That was hilarious. And he brought up gentrification and I own this place. And I really appreciated so he brought up Malcolm X Mandela. He brought up gentrification. Like, he brought up, you can tell that he's been reading about these issues and it's taking hold of him, and he's expressing it in a very aggressive way, but he's still expressing it. And the other people, his friends, and they were egging him on to fight the dude. Martin Lawrence was hilarious. He's like, you even broke your shit. It's like, it was. So what were your thoughts about that exchange at the foot of the
I'm gonna go back to 89, because I was in my about 20 years old, So when I watched that initially, Bugging Out, I looked at him like a loudmouth.
Mhm.
In that instance, and one of those brothers that's not prepared to fight. And that's the part about, yeah, all talk and no action. Because I'm thinking to myself in that instance, I fought a lot. Um, it wasn't always the wisest thing to do, but I wasn't one to always to sit back and just accept somebody else's mistreatment, especially when I, felt I was wrong. And if I got into an argument with you to that magnitude, I was definitely prepared to throw hands.
Mhm.
So for him, to me, not to do anything, I looked at him at that time. It's like, this dude is just all talk. He try to get things cracking, but when it comes down to it, you're not gonna bust a grape.
Now,
So
how do you see it now? You still feel it?
um I still see it, because if you think about it, I know I want to jump around because you was kind of
No.
leading us down. But when you see about it, the most unlikely character is the one that got it jumped off,
Yeah.
which was Mookie when he was a
Yeah.
company man, so like he was about his paper. He
Yes.
wasn't thinking about the stuff on the wall. He worked there. He was not. If when you contrast him with Bugging Out's character, he wasn't so-called connected to the community in a social aspect of it. But he was the one that when push came to shove, he went against his employer, and he leveled the first stone, threw that trash can right through his window, got it cracking. Bugging Out didn't do that.
He did not.
So that's what, where I say at one point he was important for bringing those topics to the forefront, but he's like a person that, is not the action or catalyst of change. Mookie was the catalyst of change,
Right.
whether good change or bad change, but it was change. Things had to change after that, you
Yeah.
know.
I feel like bugging out is that, within a group of men, there are those who communicate well, yeah. And then you have the portion of that group who are warriors. And
Mhm.
sometimes there are warriors who don't really say much. They don't talk about it, they just do it. Like Mookie. And I love that we as an audience, I'll speak for China. I did not see Mookie being that person. I didn't see that coming.
Exactly. Exactly.
Which is great character development, great writing. Because
Mhm.
you would anticipate bugging out, doer, because you bugging out, you better be glad I'm a righteous black man.
Exactly.
That's his way out of violence. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and let's talk about how the community reacted to Radio Raheem when he came on the scene. The late one.
Yeah, he was Debo before there was Debo.
Yes,
So, and he definitely commanded, respect amongst his peers.
and he got it
Uh,
too.
he had the attitude, and I would liken him like Bugging Out in the sense that he had a philosophy that he wore on his hands, you know, with his two rings, his two
Love and hate.
four-finger ring, love and hate. So he embodied what he was about. He was into his music, and he liked to play it loud, and he commanded respect. So like when the scene when he went into the to get his D battery, he's like 20, motherfucker, 20. So
D.
D motherfucker, D. So
See?
so
Oh God, that scene was so funny.
it was hilarious. And,
So
and then he said,
relatable.
motherfucker, you.
So relatable.
Right.
I remember one reviewer saying he was being racist. No, he wasn't. He was saying speak English. If you're gonna go to a whole nother country and conduct
Mhm.
business and be in that particular community, English speaking community for years, You should learn English. You're conducting business. That's not
Right.
racist. That's just fact. If I moved to Spain, Madrid, Spain, and conducted business, I'm speaking Spanish.
Right.
I can communicate freely with my patrons. That's not racist. That's practical.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, and I love the Dutch angles that Ernest Dickerson used. Every time he was on the scene, it was like he was always in a position of power.
Exactly. So it's low to high. Yeah.
I like when he came on the scene, people just they would just get quiet, they move out the way.
Move out the way.
They move out the way when they had the fire hydrant, which is a very Black urban cultural thing, which I love. I love that Spike Lee captures so many cultural things that we do as Black people and I guess Puerto Ricans, right? Like that.
Right.
We did that here in Chicago. Like I think it's a city thing.
Yeah, turn on that hydrant in the
Turn on that
summertime.
hydrant is so much fun. It's communal. It's so funny when Radio Raheem was walking and he had his music up loud, and that's another I think it's another cultural thing. There are the anomalies of Black people who don't like the music loud, but in the summer you want your music loud, and if you want it loud, and you want, and I feel like I remember I used to play my Anita Baker mad loud, like right, because I'm like this is fire, so I want everybody to hear this fire music.
Right.
So I'm totally related to Radio Raheem, especially when it's like the bass is crazy. But when he walked down the street and the Puerto Ricans were playing they played that music, and then like they tried to compete, and he was like,
it's like you got it.
You got it, bro. You got it, bro. Like don't drink a lot. It was like Spike Lee with this character was showing how the respect that everybody that he interacted with gave him and that he demanded. And I like this Spike Lee when he interacted with Mookie about the love and hate, and he said, love, KO, love one. So his interaction with Spike Lee showed his humanity, his kindness, and he'd rather rock in love. He'd rather walk in love. But if he have to use hate, you gotta defend yourself. But I'm glad that Spike Lee had that interaction with and it was that he had the interaction with Mookie. He could have had the interaction with Bugging Out, but he didn't. He had it with Mookie. So it made sense that there was a mutual love and respect for each other. He said, I love you, man. So the fact that he was killed, it makes sense that Mookie, I like that it was a surprise, but it makes sense that it would impact Mookie in a very deep way. That very day, he's like, I love you, man. If I love you, I love you. So it makes sense that Mookie would destroy the property. He's like, this is property. A human being, my friend died.
Exactly.
My friend died. Now, his friend did not die at the hands of Sal. He died at the hands of the crooked cop. Right. Who chose to kill him. It was an escalation, right? But what are your thoughts? I'll say this. I'm hoping that Radio Raheem's parents sue the fucking city because the cops work for the city. So sue the city for his wrongful death. You think that his parents would have taken that action?
Most definitely. Especially with all those people that witnessed it and knew exactly how unwarranted the whole situation was. So more than likely it did boil down to some type of litigation. But the fact that the people, I'll say, they took action immediately. They did. And showed their disapproval instead of waiting, days and days and trying to find out if they're gonna cover it up or not. They were just like, hold up, this was wrong. And Spike Lee and Mookie got it kicked off, but it was bound to happen. But he just got it kicked off, and under those circumstances, it was warranted. Because like I say, it was hot, and that's just like one more total disrespect, in the ultimate disrespect in our community. that they can, take a life at will and perhaps get away with it,
Mm-hmm.
So, because most times they, especially in the 80s before it was video, everybody walking around with camera phones in their pocket. It was his word against theirs. And 9 out of 10, if you did, you can't speak for yourself. And they could say he attacked them, he brandished a weapon, and whatever the case may be. And it's probably tens upon thousands of Black men lost their life under those type of circumstances that went unrecorded and
Mm-hmm.
you know wasn't allowed to get any type of justice. So hopefully, you know if this was a real scenario, that the parents would have the wherewithal to go and try to get a wrongful death suit going on against the city and the police department itself.
Yeah, Spike Lee said he based that particular character on a graffiti artist who was chokehold and killed in Union Square subway. Um, so yeah, the character is based around that victim who died, and
Okay.
I don't believe there was any justice for him.
Wow.
Yes, yes, yes. Let's talk about the exchange that Spike Lee and Mookie and John Turturro had about.
About the high jumping, spear chucking, that one.
Baby, that I'm sorry, y'all, but that exchange was hilarious. I mean, everybody like it was the so Spike Lee started out talking about Italiano, and then the Italian talked about the stereotypes of Black people, and then the Puerto Rican talked about the stereotypes of Asian, and then the Asian talked about Mayor Dinkins.
Dinkins.
Oh, and the white cop who killed Radio Raheem talked about Mexican, the 30 in the apartment, 20 in the car. Man, I'm sorry.
Right.
Goyle bean. Like he wrote that thing, man. I'm sorry, that thing was hilarious.
Yeah, and it just showed that everybody has their own underlying prejudices and misconceptions or stereotypes about each other ethnic groups.
Yeah.
And so it's not just indicative of one race people. We all harbor those type of feelings.
Yeah.
It's just some people can mobilize those feelings better than others against communities. So I thought that was an excellent thing. It was funny too. It had me cracking up. And then you juxtapose that to when he broke them down. It was like, everybody you like look like me though. You know what I'm saying? You say all these negative things, but it's that but thing. And that's why the difference, like with celebrities, where they try to put celebrities on the pedestal, it's like you're not Black, you're like other than. So you're more palatable to us than your other Black brothers and sisters, And because he was like, but that's different, but no, it's like he just, all your heroes are Black. But yeah, you want to disrespect us and talk about us, the way you did. So I thought that was cool because it gave them a chance to actually you just reflect. We all human beings and with great qualities. We had good and bad in every community, like they do. We all want the same thing for our children. For them to have a better life than we live, for them to, be safe, for them to prosper. So it's like sometimes those things you just got to put it aside. So I like the way that whole scene and those exchanges that they had about race relations. It kind of, brought the movie, you know, to, brought the movie like together. It kind of in an anticipatory way because you're establishing that this is the underlying thing. You got the heat, you got the day, and you got this underlying tension that's there already, and then manifests itself in that one egregious act against Radio Raheem that sets the stage for the climax,
Yes, and even when even though that scene was funny, the stereotypes they were spouting about different ethnic groups and racial groups, I will say I really listened, and I was like, in every stereotype there is, I think 5% of the stereotype happens to be true. I noticed that everybody spoke about a particular food that particular racial group or ethnic group tend to eat. Right? Like he mentioned fried chicken and biscuits. Spike Lee mentioned spaghetti and pizza, and then they mentioned Mexican dude, Puerto Rican dude, and mentioned egg foo young. It's like,
Right.
things are cultural. They were just cultural things,
Right.
That we're known to eat, and so I thought that was interesting. Let's talk about Spike Lee, Mookie, and Tina.
That was
Rosie Perez.
I like that a lot.
I wonder why, PK.
I mean, he added to my repertoire. I had to admit that. I had to add ice to my game, but outside of that, their interaction, that fiery Latina, and him being, a father, I wouldn't necessarily say teenage father, but a young father, trying to make it, and still might not be good enough, not good enough for his woman, not good enough for what she desires. So it kind of sets the stage for what his family dynamic was, and I like that. And then another relationship interaction that I thought was interesting was how Sal had the hots for Mookie's sister, and it was it was uncomfortable for him, for him to watch him flirting with his sister like he was all the time. And I thought that was an interesting take, because I noticed, like, even here in the city, a lot of those it's a lot of like stores and gas station attendants that has not necessarily Italians in them, but like with other ethnic groups, a lot of Arabs, and they do that a lot. They don't have their like sisters and daughters and so forth working in those stores, but they like to attract and hit on all the sisters that come through. And and when you see it, it does look kind of uncomfortable, for them. And for him to, do that with his sister, I thought that was that dynamic was, and he addressed it too. So you could tell that it was, something that he was kind of put off by, but that was his employer. So I don't know.
You know what? Mookie was very forthright, like, leave my sister alone.
Right.
Yeah, he spoke his mind.
Right.
He wasn't a scared employee. He understood his rights. Yeah, he was trying sometimes in between deliveries.
Right.
I want to go back to him and Rosie Perez. To see this young mother frustrated with her mother, because her mother clearly said to her, I'll watch the baby. It's hot. She probably want to break and get out. Her mother changed her mind. That frustrated her in the heat. So every time I look up, she's grabbing the son and sitting him down hard.
Right. Rough Hector up.
Yeah, but she's frustrated and she's young. She wants to be out and about, and she misses Mookie. And when he comes over, she said, "I have to order pizza for you to come over. I want to see you." And I love all of the imagery with the ice cube. I love when she dumps her head. Well, Spike Lee's sister taking a shower, and we see the shower head and her natural hair, and that's such a beautiful shot. Shout out to Ernest Dickerson. Such a beautiful shot. We see her, it's like she put her head in a glass of ice or a bowl of ice, and it's just a beautiful pictures. It was so beautiful. And Spike Lee wants to, she wants to talk. He wants to be intimate, and I'm being nice. He wants to be intimate. She wants to talk. She wants him to just be in her company, but he just wants to have sex, and it's frustrating to her. but she's attracted to him and she still loves him. And at first it's like, let me just cool you off with these ice cubes. And I love the whole sequence of the forehead, and he's making fun of her forehead. And it's like they share a sense of humor. He cooled her off. The ice cooled her off, and because she was hot, and then she cooled off literally with the ice. And then emotionally she started to cool off. And all the shots of her of the female body, and we know we have our bodies are like art. So
It was tastefully done.
So tastefully done. That's
and sexy at the same time. And sexy.
Yes, sexy. Yes. I just love it was foreplay. It was an appropriate foreplay with the ice, and then she finally let her guards down, and it clearly. And I love the shots that Ernest Dickerson had when they were kissing. I think it was like cameo lighting. I think you just saw the contour of their nose and their lips. Bellissimo was so beautiful. And they calmed down, and then he's. I love that. I just love how the scene unfolded. She started hot, and then she just cooled down, and everything appeared to be well. What are your thoughts? I love how the mayor and mother sister, how they were like this far. She was so mean to him. She was so mean. Well, she said because he was a drunk. And they had probably been living in that neighborhood for 50 years.
Right.
Because she said she has a tenant, she has an ex-husband. They've been living in that neighborhood the longest. And but I sense that she didn't like him being a drunkard, but there was some type of connection that they had, and they started so far apart, but as the movie unfolded, it became closer and closer and closer.
Right.
As the sun went down.
And I think it was a definite, it kind of like the dynamic, like when kids like each other and can't express it. She liked the mayor, probably always have, but she doesn't like the situation he put himself in.
Yes.
And she blames him for that. Yes. And that resentment, it could be almost to the point where, like, had you not been like that, maybe we could have something, So, and it's something that you could tell that, as it unfolds, that's something that she wants. Because even though she did treat him mean, he kept coming back and she kept responding. So he was persistent, and then the time permitted where they actually got a little closer towards the end when everything started unfolding. And he asserted, and he kind of had redeeming qualities because he asserted himself in those times. He was a protector. He came to protect. So
he gave her flowers.
And yeah, and then like when the buildings was being demolished in the fighting, and he kind of served like a so
he saved a little boy too.
Yeah. So he had some redeemable qualities about him, and that's what you could tell that she was gravitated towards, but she still was kind of rough on him because of the situation with the alcohol and everything, and not living up to his full potential as a man.
Ossie Davis did a magnificent job in conveying all those emotional layers. He was so lovable though.
Yeah.
He was so lovable. I love his storytelling, and Mookie always do the right things. Like, that's it. Yeah, that's it. I'm gone. And saving a little boy, like he put himself at risk. He was an older man running across the street, to save this young man, to save the younger generation.
Right.
He put himself in harm's way for that. And that's what men do. That's what men do. I love that moment and how He's like, well, the boy was just scared when the mother was reprimanding him and hitting him on his butt.
Right.
He's like,
Right.
yeah, you're right. She's like, I don't have nobody tell me how to raise my child. He's like, you're right. He's like,
Right.
you got it. And when the young people put the water hose on the Italian man and he was snapping, and then the police said, asked the mayor what happened. He's like, those who know don't tell no.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever he said, what the fuck is that? Some voodoo? That was hilarious. But he had an opportunity to drop the dime and he didn't. He showed
Right.
loyalty.
Mhm.
He showed loyalty.
And that old wisdom.
Yes, yes, yes. So he was a lovable character. Mother sister was too, because when Joanne Lee, Spike Lee's sister, was combing her hair, you know, she kind of softened. She softened with her. We saw a soft side of her. Even when she's like, Mookie, I'm watching you. Be careful. Don't work too hard. We saw her soft side too. When she worked with everybody else, she was soft. With Mookie and with Mookie's sister, she was soft. And she thanked the mayor for saving the little boy. She's like, you put yourself in harm's way. It was foolish, but I just want to thank you. And then he gave her a dozen of roses. Just put them on her, her windowsill.
Right.
It's like this elder. He was being romantic, and I'm glad that Spike put in, like, he didn't have to do that, but the fact that it was like he was pursuing her. He was like, what did
courting her. Yeah, he was courting her.
He was courting her. I like that she had her defense up, because you just can't let anybody in, especially him being a drunkard. He's a known drunk. I will say, let's talk about how the young people disrespected him when they approached him. Like, I'm not going to respect you. You walk around here like a bum. I will say, when the young man, when he gave the monologue about, you don't know what it's like to see your 5 kids hungry and your wife, he's like, yeah, I don't know. I'll go out and find a job. That's what I would do. He was so disrespectful and mean, and the young men were like, they co-signed, but the girl, the young woman, she was like, she had compassion for him. She didn't like how he was being disrespectful. She probably agreed that he shouldn't be a drunk, but she was like, she probably was raised, you don't disrespect your elders.
Exactly. And they were definitely out of line with that. I forget that gentleman's name. He played in a couple of Spike Lee
Clockers.
Yeah, and he played in I think he was one of the doormen in Mo Better Blues.
He was.
Yeah, but I can't think of his name for the life of me. But he's a comedian from what I remember.
Yes.
And he was very vicious with his tongue. Very with his tongue. And no holds barred. And he spoke his mind how he felt, and with passion, and he punctuated everything with the movement of the head. And so you couldn't help but feel sorry for the mayor at that point when he was berating him like that. And but that was that conflict between the old and the young, as well. The old ways. Who are you? How dare you tell me about how to live my life and you not living your life? They looking at the messenger as opposed to the message. And that's where a lot of people are. It's like, unless you got $1 million, you can't tell me how to start a business. But when in actuality, you can learn a lot from people that fail. You learn more from people that fail than people that have excelled from jump and never had to go through a whole bunch of trials and tribulations to get where they had to be. So
I think they honestly, I think they both made valid points. I think the man made valid points. I think he made valid points. I don't like how abrasive he was and what he said, but he wasn't far off. He's like, you're supposed to be the example in the community. You come before, you're like 3 generations ahead of us. You should be the example, not just giving advice, but be that advice. But that made the character more interesting. Right. It made it way more interesting. But I like that at least within that group, one person had compassion for him, which was the young lady.
Yeah, like, yeah.
And let's talk about Joshua Turner and his brother, that brother relationship.
Right,
Joshua Turner was such an asshole to his younger brother.
right. And he didn't want him to formulate his own opinions about
Yeah.
anything. It's like, hey, it's us against them, you know. It was that type of mentality, and his brother didn't see it that way.
No.
So he wanted to beat it out of him, you know, beat him into his way of thinking, which was kind of in line with Sal's way of thinking too. And that's just showing that's where that comes from, you know. It's that type of mentality is handed down generation to generation. But his younger brother served as that break line. Like, hey, it might stop right here because I don't feel the way you feel.
Right.
You know, he's my friend. Why are you telling me not to talk to him? You know,
Yeah.
and I could talk to whoever I want to talk to. You know, he never does anything wrong to me. You know, so but it was that it's us against them mentality, and so that dynamic between the brothers, I thought was very important to establish.
Yeah, yeah, because even Mookie was had to encourage him to, you need to just fight him like old school. Like
Mhm.
he's bullying you essentially. He
Right,
doesn't respect your point of view. Because he even told his brothers, like, you don't even listen to me. Mookie, listen to me. You don't even listen to me.
right.
He has no respect for him. Um, but it's like his young brother was with the influence of Mookie was coming into his own.
Mhm.
Mookie wasn't Mookie is like he's like the central, he's like the connector to everybody, the red,
Right.
the south, to the community. And Mookie definitely respected mother, sister, and the mayor. He
Mhm.
respected his sister. He respected to everybody, but well, he didn't respect Tina that much because he wasn't there as frequently. He wasn't, because we didn't see Mookie giving her any money. He been counting money the whole movie, and we didn't
Right.
give her any money for the baby.
Mhm. But she named the baby Hector now,
It still comes from him. I mean, it's still part of it's still his son. So it's like all his mama, all this kind of money. Why you you just got some of her good stuff, her juiciness, and you didn't hit off any money? Not cool, man. That's not cool. That's not cool. And
he
I'm glad.
probably left it on the nightstand and you just
Well,
didn't
he should have
speak.
showed. No, if you're gonna show you're gonna show the character counting money, you need to show the character giving her some money or putting it on the nightstand. Um, so I appreciated Spike Lee showing that flawed character. Um,
Mhm.
and I love the let's talk about the music score too before we get towards the tragic end. What did you feel about the music score?
Oh, the music, Bill Lee, he always seemed to find the right combination of songs and that captures the mood and the sentiment of those scenes.
Yeah,
You know, is he just even going back to she's got to have he? I mean, he's on point. He is on point, and they always fit. So and it played a character in itself. The music, even from Radio Raheem walking down the street to the opening credits. It's just music was an integral part of that film, and it's a lot of it's an integral part of a lot of Spike Lee's films. So
yeah,
my
yeah.
hats off to him once again, the late Bill. I mean, excuse me, yeah, Bill Lee for
Mhm.
doing the score.
Yeah, I noticed that the first song that was playing softly, as we are introduced to the mayor at the top of the movie is "Don't Shoot" by Take Six. And I remember buying the cassette, the soundtrack to Do the Right Thing. in Chicago, and I would play that bad boy over and over, and it would make me cry. But they saying, put the gun down, don't shoot, don't put it down. I'm not a great singer, but I just remember it was so sweet, and the fact that his father composed that song, "Don't Shoot." It goes, put the gun down, don't shoot me. I mean, it's so wow. And because and then Daniel Alo said at the top of the film when his brother, his two sons were fighting, he's like, I'm gonna kill somebody. All these little droplets, little foreshadow. Although he didn't kill somebody, but he came close. It was such a glorious score, and honestly, the Heat was the main character of the whole movie. Heat.
And they kept referencing it too.
The Heat. The newspapers, all the newspapers talked about the Heat. Everybody was talking about the Heat. And
Jackson's character.
Yes. Yes.
Doctor.
Yes. Well, let's get to the part that is very, very sad. So Bugging Out convinces Radio Raheem, Malcolm, the guy, to boycott Sal officially. And when they go in there, of course, Radio Raheem has this loud music playing, Fight the Power, which was an appropriate song. And they're just going back and forth, like Daniel Alo, or Sal, like he's about to fall over. He's like yelling and screaming, and he wouldn't turn it down, and he just started beating his boombox with a bat, destroyed it. And it was so. Before we get to Radio Raheem jumping over the counter
and grabbing him by his neck,
let's talk about what did that music mean. What did that music mean to Radio Raheem? Why was it so important? It held power for him, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, and it was part of his identity. It was closely tied to his identity, because that was his name, Radio Raheem. And you basically, when he destroyed his boom box, he destroyed a piece of him, an integral piece of him. And he couldn't stand for that. So that was that moment in itself made me think like, man, it's about to be on. Because like you said, everybody respected Radio Raheem. They when they had the water going, they made sure they didn't wet him and his boom box up. And for somebody to take it a step further and just totally destroy his boom box, that's the ultimate form of disrespect. And like I said, it was his music was his identity. That was part of his identity. So yeah, that's the way it spoke to me.
Okay, so I would say this. I really thought about it watching it this time recently. And I said to myself, music is very significant to us as Black Americans. Music is significant to humanity, period.
Right?
Because music is like, it connects all of us in that kind of storytelling. And as Black people, we can, as far as culture, we can hang our hats on, we contributed to the culture of music in this country. It's kind of like, that's what we have. We can say we may not own a lot of businesses in this country, but we contributed to the music landscape of this country.
Right.
And I feel like, to me, that was symbolic of the one thing we have and the tool in which to play this music, you destroyed it. That's an integral part of us as Black people. Is our, like, even when we were on, our ancestors were on the plantation, the only release was through music. That was the way the moaning, that's where the blues come from. We could moan and wail, and we could release some of that pain, even temporarily. So for me, I took it there. I didn't have to take it there, but for me, it was like, it's such an integral part of our healing, our release. It soothes us and relaxes us. It's something that we can escape to when things are chaotic. It can, put us at ease. So I may be reading a lot into this, but I feel like he destroyed that part and he just lost it. He was already on 10, and then of course bugging out, egging him on.
Taking him on big time.
Egging him on big time. And love lost. You talking about the love and the hate?
Yeah.
Hate won. In that instance, it's fury won. Fury won, not hate, but fury. And then that's when they started fighting. And I love how Spike Lee just built the suspense, like, because Ray Liotta was like this and he was like this, and it just blew over the top, and he dragged him over there and started beating on him. And then of course Sal's sons jumped in.
Yeah.
But as you should for your family members. And then but Bugging Out was right there on PK. He was right there. He didn't run away, he didn't run out, he was right there fighting, helping. And Radio Ray, he was getting the best of Sal. He was getting the best.
Yeah.
He's a young man. Sal's a middle-aged man. Like, he's getting the best of him. And that sequence was so, like, was so beautiful. Dramatically, the lighting, the camera work, and all that. And Spike Lee said they storyboarded it. They had to. And they fell out into the open space. They went beyond Sal's place.
Right.
And clearly somebody called the police straight away, and that's when the chaos happened. So when the police came and they attacked, they grabbed Bugging Out first, and they grabbed him. And
they didn't touch Sal.
They did not touch Sal. Even Bugging Out even said it. What about Sal and Vito?
Yeah.
They didn't touch him at all. And the way, respect to the late Bill Nunn, because that acting was exceptional. That nonverbal acting was, I like the way the cop took him and he was choking and trying to hold on. But PK, when I respect to Ernest Dickerson and Spike Lee, that scene, that shot of his feet dangling with his gym shoes, it makes me cry every time.
Yeah. He was lynched right before our eyes. It
was a lynching right before our eyes. Right before our eyes. It just made, and I'm like, last night when I watched, I'm like, dang, I didn't want to cry. I mean, like, the part is coming up, but you can't forget it's coming. And then it came, and I just started crying. The Bill Nunn, he just did this next step. Everybody did. I mean, and Bugging Out was in the back of the car, the squad car, and they kept like punching him with the
billy club in the stomach. Yeah.
Police abuse. Yes. And the way that Bill Nunn fell like a thump to the ground. And I don't know if you caught this, but in the shot, when his head laid down like this, you saw his love knuckles. Like, Spike Lee could have shot it, or Ernest Dickerson could have shot it where you saw the hate, but he made sure the frame of the love was in frame, next to his face.
And love didn't win.
Love did not win. Love did not win. And then everybody just went in and loitered. Not loitered, but they went in and took, what do you call
that? They took him away?
No, I'm saying the community went into Sal and destroyed Styles. Looted, they looted, destroyed his property. I like how Mookie was so quiet when he went to grab the trash can. He wasn't loud, he was just quiet. And he just threw it into bust the window open. And the mayor he protected Sal and his two sons.
Right, he pulled them away. Yeah.
Why do you think he did that?
Because he was a peacemaker of the community. And he knew there's nothing you could do at this point.
Right.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So don't get yourself in harm's way, because it's gonna happen. So let's just move on out the way, because the what they say, the train has left the station.
Yeah.
It's done deal. They are upset, and I like, the crescendo of voices, prior to him throwing it. They was like, oh, that was wrong. They see how they did him, and it was like the murmur. I was like, oh wow, and that I guess gave Mookie that energy to be like, oh look, that was messed up to do something. And then once he kicked it off, like you said, then all hell broke loose, and there was no stopping it. And then the creme de la, the piece de resistance, as they say, that's the French, I guess, when he put that Malcolm and Martin picture on that burnt, charred wall.
Yes.
They finally hung those pictures up on his house famous.
PK, respect to you. I never, because I do remember him doing that, but I never connected to that when he finally. Oh, respect, bravo.
We had to tear the house down to get it done, but you're gonna show respect today. So
I bet
we
you
hung
said I
that.
wish you would have put those photos up.
Mhm. Or at least, like you said, speak to people with dignity.
Yeah.
Show them respect, acknowledge his concern.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't want to do it, it was a far better way to explain your position without being offensive
Mm-hmm.
and dismissive.
He was very
About
dismissive.
Mhm. Because that's when things get elevated, when not only you not listening to me, you don't even find my concern valid enough to, give any type of measure of consideration.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a sticking point right there. Like I said, when it's all said and done, was it worth it? Could he had carved out a space, you know, for a few pictures.
Yeah.
Um, and that's the thing. He was proud of the fact that he was feeding the community. He took pride in that. He
Right.
took pride in his product. So you
Right.
gotta say that. He took
Yes.
pride in his product.
Yes.
He took pride in his business.
Yes.
His sons didn't care too much for it. They hated it. uh John Turturro's character hated coming down there. He hated being around the people. He just despised them. And a lot of times that's how they come to our communities. They make that money, but they don't respect the people in which they serve. And it kind of manifested itself in how he dealt with that situation about the pictures on the wall. It might seem like a small gesture, or insignificant gesture, but it would go a long way in the community, where you do take the time, just acknowledge the fact that, yeah, this is an Italian restaurant. Yeah, I'm an Italian American, but yeah, I serve a broader community. And at least my decor to some degree can reflect that broader community.
Yeah. Thinking about it, honestly, Sal could have made space.
Mm-hmm.
He could have, because like Mookie, like Bug and I said, I've been essentially patronizing you for a very long time. No Italians are patronizing this particular business in this community. We are. So it is not going to hurt you to make space to put some Black celebrities on the wall.
Right.
And you have no competition. You have no business competition, I'm saying, in that community. Because he said to his son, there's like 1 million pizzerias in the Italian neighborhoods. And that's why he set up shop in that Black neighborhood.
Right.
Speaking of that, let's talk about the Black men who were chilling Now, somebody was like, these men are not working. It's a Saturday, y'all. It's a Saturday. We shouldn't assume they're not.
Employed.
Yeah, it's a Saturday. Everybody's off. Okay.
Right.
But I love that red wall. Shout out to Wynn Thomas, the production designer. He painted that wall. But their dialogue about Robin Harris is fine with the pizzeria. He's fine with the Korean vegetarian. He was like,
Sure.
right? But the West Indian guy took issue with it. He's like, they just come over here and they open a business. So that particular dialogue spoke to how, in many instances, Black people are denied capital loans to open businesses that are owned by white institutions. You have your exceptions, but by and large, they are denied capital loans, even when they are qualified in many instances.
Exactly.
Whereas foreigners they don't need capital because they come over here with the capital already. They have to do the paperwork. It's still crazy to me that, anyway. So I appreciate them bringing up that. He was like, y'all, what are you gonna do? Why don't you get your start on business? It's like Sweet Dick Willie. It's not like, oh, you just start a business. You need capital to start a business. And then it takes 5 years to even see a profit many times.
Yep.
So it's not as simple as like, I'm going to work and I'm just gonna he just simplified it, but I appreciated their discussion around it, their discussion around, the environment, global warming. West Indian dude mentioned global warming.
And that was a new topic back then.
In 89?
Yeah.
Spike Lee.
Cutting edge.
Come on, Spike Lee. Nobody was talking about that in like the mainstream media or films either. Marvin Gaye mentioned it in his songs.
Right.
It was very progressive. Yeah, that was I appreciated that exchange. And so going back to the night is over, Radio Raheem is dead. Spike Lee comes back to this charred store, is destroyed. And what did he says, I want my money. I need to get paid. Yes, I broke your window. Yes, I started the whole violence, but I still need to get paid.
Right, 250.
Like 250. Run me my money.
Right.
And he's like, I built this place with my own hands. That's nice. Pay me my money. A man died. My friend died. A human being died. He's like, you can get insurance. Like, it's not about insurance. A man, my friend, died.
Right.
Who cares?
And then he even showed them ultimate disrespect. He threw the money at him.
Threw the money at him. Threw the money at him. Sure did. And first Mookie no, I just want just my 250. Then he thought about it. He picked that money up.
Yep.
You have a little boy to feed, okay?
I'll give you your change later.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna keep the $500. I need this to last me for a second. It's 1989 until I find another job. And he went back to Tina, and
that's when he gave her the money.
He didn't show it, so did he?
Yep. It was in the cutting room floor.
Okay. But they were lying in bed, all three of them, and then he gets up and she's like, Mookie, you too tired. I'm tired of this. And I appreciate Spike Lee putting the Tina character in with the son, because she mirrors a number of Black single mothers who want to just rest in their femininity, but the father of the child is choosing to not be involved, choosing to not be to be in a relationship and spend time with her and her son. Like, I appreciate him for showcasing that mother. And they were both so young, in their, I think, early 20s.
Right.
But we did see a soft side of her. We saw many sides. We saw a frustrated side of her. We saw a humorous side of her. We saw a sensual side of her. We saw a soft side of her. Spike Lee writes such well-developed characters, right? Such
Yeah.
full characters.
Spend a lot of time there.
Yeah.
They stay consistent to that
Yeah.
throughout.
He shows many sides to his characters, which is he shows the fullness of their humanity.
All right.
Anything else you want to touch on about this beautiful, touching film?
And we hit a lot of the bases with it, but like an overall like quality and overall opinion about that movie, it was so going back to 89, it had a great impact on me. It kind of made me want to dabble in film, you know. But I like the storytelling. It stuck with me for a while. And then in 90, I went on to a HBCU. So, you know, after seeing, you know, in 88, seeing
School Days.
School Days, that was like, that was another Spike Lee movie that was impactful. But Do the Right Thing, it was just a powerful movie. I thought he would have got an award for it when it was up for Academy Award, and I was like, okay, because it was just that powerful, and it's, you know, even though it spoke to African Americans or people of, you know, different ethnic groups, it still was universal. It still had a universal, you know, it's just justice, right versus wrong, you know, and and the humanity of people. And I felt that that should have easily won, but it didn't come to pass. But the movie it was quality back then. It meant a lot back then, and it still does. And it's something that I could periodically watch, you know, once a year or something. Every now and then revisit it. Yeah. Well, overall, definitely one of the top films of Spike Lee. You know, I got pretty much all of them in my collection. And that's one of the ones that I really enjoy a lot.
Yeah, I found it very powerful, very touching, very moving. It made me laugh really hard. It made me cry hard. It made me relate. I saw myself. I saw my friends and family members. The music sound, the soundtrack was wonderful. I wanted to share some of the nominations and awards according to IMDb.
Okay.
So, Do the Right Thing was Danny Aiello was nominated for Best Actor in a Supporting Role for an Oscar. Spike Lee was nominated for Best Writing Screenplay. I think Ozzie Davis should have been nominated for a fucking Oscar. Thank you very much.
Right.
Daniel Aiello won Best Supporting Actor from the Boston Society of Film Critics Awards. Spike Lee was nominated for the Palme d'Or Cannes Film Festival. Spike Lee won Do the Right Thing won Best Picture on the Chicago Film Critics Association Award. Daniel Aiello won Best Supporting Actor. Spike Lee won Best Director. Shout out to Chicago Film Critics Association Awards.
Right.
Spike Lee, Do the Right Thing was nominated for Best Picture by a Golden Globe. Best Director Golden Globe. Danny Aiello, Best Performance by a Supporting Actor. Spike Lee, Best Screenplay Golden Globes. Image Award. Ozzie Davis won Best Outstanding Supporting Actor. It was nominated for Best Outstanding Motion Picture for Image Award. Libra Dee was nominated. She won Outstanding Lead Actress in a Motion Picture. Spike Lee was nominated for Outstanding Lead Actor. And Rosie Perez was nominated for Outstanding Supporting Actress for an Image Award. And Los Angeles Film Critics Association, Spike Lee won Best Picture. Danny Aiello won Best Supporting Actor. Spike Lee won Best Director. His late father won for Best Music. Spike Lee won for best screenplay.
Mm.
So everybody else has sense.
Except Screen Actors Guild of America.
No, he wouldn't be nominated for that. He would be that's SAG, that's from actor.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I meant
the Academy Awards.
Academy. Yeah.
Yeah, he got it for screenplay, but not for best picture. It should have been nominated for best picture. Easy, should have won.
I forgot what up against that year.
Yeah, I'm trying to see.
I think
I love Best Picture because Best Picture recognizes all the contributors to the, you know what I mean, to a film.
Right. I'm trying to think Dancing with Wolves wasn't around that time. What movie was
Let
best?
me see. Best Academy.
89 or 90?
That would be 1990.
90, okay.
Yeah.
Which one?
Academy Award for Best Picture. 1990. No way.
What?
Driving Miss Daisy.
Drive Miss Daisy. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And there it is. Wow. Now, don't get me wrong. I really love the acting in Driving Miss Daisy. I love the acting. But, y'all, come on. Do the Right Thing was so emotionally compelling and so visually stunning. It has such distinct characters.
Rich characters.
Rich characters. But you know what? When you finish, we all feel like it's Oscar-winning film. He won over he won with the audience. Like that movie has impacted and moved so many people all over the globe.
Right.
So you still won, Spike, and it's still relevant to this day.
And nobody's even thinking about Driving Miss Daisy.
I mean, like I said, I like the acting, you know, I didn't hate it, but it didn't move me like Do the Right Thing.
That film, it was, to me, it was I didn't enjoy any aspect of it.
Oh, you didn't enjoy the acting either?
No. I did. I gave it a try, but
Okay.
I haven't seen it since I originally watched it. And I'm watching movies 10 and 20 times.
Me too.
But that was a one and done.
Yeah.
And the best picture, even some, I've seen some foreign films that won, and I watched them several times. And you got to read it, read the closed caption, even know what's going on. And I enjoyed them more thoroughly than that film. So
I will say shout out to Kim Basinger who was like at the Oscar when she was announcing the Best Picture award. She was like, Spike Lee, Do the Right Thing. It should be nominated too. But it spoke the most truth. So she did shout him out at the podium.
Right.
Yeah, she was a really she was an acclaimed actress at the time, you know. Mm-hmm. So for her to express her truth, and it got applause too. You can actually find it on YouTube.
Okay.
So we're gonna wrap this up, but if you want to, let's do the five-star rating. So on the acting ensemble, what would you give it from 1 to 5? 5. The cinematography?
5.
The film score?
5.
The screenplay?
10.
And directing?
10.
I agree with him. I honestly, no, I disagree. I'm going to give the acting a 10.
Okay.
Everything else is like we're on the same page, but that acting, baby, that acting. So yeah, rest in peace to Bill Lee, Bill Nye, Danny Aiello, Ozzie Davis, Ruby Dee. Gosh, it's like so many of
Robin,
them. Who?
Robin Hill.
Thank you, the late great Robin Harris, who's from Chicago, like us. So rest in peace to him. I think we should do school days.
Right up my alley. Let's
I
do
will,
it.
I will say I did not attend HBCU, but watching school days made me wish I did, because I'm like, oh, it looked like it was so much fun and so inspiring, but I didn't. But we'll talk about how that, because that film, it touched me in a very deep way. But this is about Do the Right Thing. So I hope you all enjoyed PK and I discuss our reaction to Do the Right Thing, the iconic Do the Right Thing, the Oscar-winning quality Do the Right Thing. And please comment below how the film impacted you, what you loved about it, and how it, yeah. So don't be shy. Have a good day and have a good night. Take care. Peace. Chinese.
Take care.
All right.